What if some of the most gripping thrillers from cinema history, the kind that once slipped through the cracks of time, are suddenly right in front of you on YouTube for free? Have you ever scrolled late and found something you did not expect? A film so rare, it feels like you stumbled into a forgotten archive. You are about to, because hidden among the digital dust sit 15 classic thrillers waiting to be found before they fade again. Impact, 1949. Impact begins with a quiet lie so small you almost miss it, then grows into a chain of events that flips an entire life upside down. A respected businessman named Walter Williams thinks he understands the world. He believes in order, routine, and trust. Then a simple trip becomes a turning point when a hidden plot twists his life into a puzzle of lost identity and quiet danger. What makes Impact so gripping is its slow burn tension. Every scene feels like the ground is shifting under your feet. Behind the scenes, the production leaned into real locations, small streets, lonely diners, and wide-open roads that made Walter's confusion feel even sharper. This was a time when thrillers did not depend on spectacle, but on silence, on glances, on the fear of being misunderstood. The story plays with the idea of second chances and the strange freedom that comes when the world thinks you are gone. The highlight is Brian Donlevy's layered performance. He starts the film as a confident, collected man. By the middle, he is fighting to understand what truth even looks like. Impact was overlooked for years, dismissed as simple noir. But watch it today and you realize how modern it feels. It is a story about someone trying to rebuild himself inside a world that no longer fits him. A thriller built on shadows that stay with you long after the credits fade. The Hitchhiker, 1953. The Hitchhiker wastes no time. You meet two friends on a weekend road trip, joking, relaxing, and thinking the world is safe enough to travel without worry. Then a stranger steps into their path and the air changes instantly. Director Ida Lupino builds the story with a tight grip, letting every mile of open desert feel like a trap waiting to close. The villain rarely shouts. He does not need to. His silence does the work. This film stands out because it was based on a real case that unsettled the public in the early 1950s. Even though the movie never shows anything graphic, the constant tension makes you feel like anything can happen. Lupino, one of the few major female directors of her time, shot the movie in harsh sunlight to make the characters seem exposed at all times. There is no comforting darkness here. Every truth is revealed in bright daylight. The Hitchhiker became a landmark in thriller history because it broke rules. It stripped away glamour and left viewers alone with fear, trust, and unpredictability. The two friends at the center are not perfect. Heroes. They doubt themselves, panic, and argue as ordinary people would, yet they keep trying. That humanity is what makes the tension so sharp. Watching it free on YouTube today feels like stepping into a window of pure suspense, where every choice matters and every road may lead to another challenge waiting just ahead. The Scar, also known as Hollow Triumph, 1948. The Scar begins with a setup so bold it pulls you in immediately. A man escapes a troubled situation and tries to outsmart his future by becoming someone else. Not metaphorically, literally. He discovers a respected psychiatrist who looks almost exactly like him and decides that taking over this new identity is the perfect plan. It is clever, it is daring, and it is absolutely the start of his problems. This movie thrives on the idea that running from yourself only leads you into deeper corners. The lead actor, Paul Henreid, plays both roles. His calm confidence as the psychiatrist contrasts sharply with the restless energy of the man trying to steal his life. Filmmakers relied on tight framing and long shadows to blur the line between who is real and who is pretending. It was an impressive technical challenge for the era. What makes The Scar unforgettable is how it turns the idea of escape into a trap. The new life looks polished from the outside, but filled with secrets inside. Every step the imposter takes feels like quicksand. The tension is quiet, but relentless. For years, this film was underrated, overshadowed by bigger noir titles, but time has been kind to it. Watch it today, and you notice how carefully it explores identity, consequence, and the cost of pretending. It is stylish, moody, and far more thoughtful than it first appears. A true hidden gem that grows sharper with every viewing. Fear in the Night, 1947. Fear in the Night begins with a question no one wants to face. What if a dream feels so real, it leaves traces behind when you wake? Vince, the man at the center of the story, believes he simply had a vivid nightmare. A strange room, a quiet struggle, a moment he cannot explain. But the next morning, he finds clues that should not exist, and the lines between memory and imagination begin to blur. Director Maxwell Shane adapts a story by Cornell Woolrich, whose work shaped countless psychological thrillers. He uses mirrors, tilted angles, and soft lighting to create the feeling that reality is slightly out of balance. You experience Vince's confusion with him, never sure which part of the story you can trust. The performances are grounded and believable. Vince is not a brave hero. He is an ordinary man trying to understand something that defies logic. His fear is internal, coming from the possibility that his own mind may be hiding something from him. Fear in the Night is a small film with a powerful pull. It plays with perception in a way that keeps you thinking long after it ends. It proves that sometimes the most gripping suspense comes from the questions we ask ourselves. Cause for Alarm, 1951. Cause for Alarm builds its entire suspense on one simple moment. Ellen receives a letter from her troubled husband, who insists it must be sent immediately. At first it seems harmless, but when she reads it, the world shifts. The note suggests she is involved in something she never imagined, and suddenly she must stop the letter before it reaches anyone who might misinterpret it. The brilliance of this film is its real-time pressure. Nearly everything happens in Ellen's bright, peaceful home. No dark alleys or dramatic confrontations, just ordinary routines closing in on her. Every cheerful neighbor and every passing minute becomes part of the tension. Director Tay Garnett uses stillness to build suspense. The home feels too quiet. The mail carrier arrives too quickly. The sunlight becomes a spotlight rather than a comfort. Loretta Young carries the entire film with grace, panic, and strength, making Ellen's fear completely relatable. Cause for Alarm shows that a thriller does not need noise to feel intense. The story is built on one misunderstanding, one letter, and one woman trying to undo something she never meant to start. Watching it today, you feel every bit of her urgency. Kansas City. Confidential, 1952. Kansas City. Confidential opens with perfect mystery. A masked team carries out a detailed plan led by someone the crew never fully sees or understands. After the event is complete, a quiet delivery driver named Joe is mistakenly pulled into the chaos. He becomes the prime suspect simply because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. From that moment, Joe's life becomes a tight coil of confusion and determination. Director Phil Carlson creates a world where trust is rare and truth is slippery. Joe, played by John Payne, travels across borders, tracks clues, and tries to uncover the mastermind who set everything in motion. The twist is that the crew members themselves do not know who their leader really is. They only know his voice and his plan. That secrecy becomes the force that drives the entire film. The tension is sharp but grounded. The movie explores how identity can be twisted by appearances and assumptions. Joe wants his name cleared, but in order to do that, he must step deeper into the shadows that trapped him in the first place. Along the way, the film gives us strong character moments, striking close-ups, and a storyline that never lets up. Kansas City Confidential was later recognized as a major influence on modern crime thrillers. Its structure inspired countless stories built around hidden planners and mistaken identities. Watching it free today feels like uncovering the blueprint of a genre. It is raw, gritty in spirit, and incredibly gripping even decades later. Sudden Fear, 1952. Sudden fear is what happens when elegance meets danger in the quietest possible way. Joan Crawford plays Myra Hudson, a successful playwright whose life seems perfectly arranged. She is talented, respected, and finally feels ready for calm. Then, she meets a charming actor named Lester, and her life begins to shift in subtle ways. What starts as romance turns slowly into suspicion, then into a chilling realization that her trust may have been misplaced. The power of Sudden Fear lies in how carefully it builds tension. Crawford delivers one of her finest performances, showing grace on the outside and rising panic underneath. Scenes unfold with calm pacing, letting the audience feel her growing awareness piece by piece. Director David Miller uses light and shadow as emotional cues. A single close-up can reveal more than a page of dialogue. The famous recorded voice scene is a standout moment, one that showcases Crawford's ability to portray heartbreak and sharp clarity in the same breath. The film was nominated for multiple awards and still feels surprisingly modern. Its exploration of manipulation, intuition, and resilience resonates strongly even today. You watch Myra shift from doubt to strategy, turning her vulnerability into strength. It is empowering without losing its suspense. Sudden Fear remains one of the great thrillers of the early 1950s, driven by performance, mood, and emotional intelligence. Watching it free right now feels like discovering a classic that understands power in silence and victory in careful planning. The House on Telegraph Hill, 1951. The House on Telegraph Hill begins far from the quiet streets of San Francisco. A woman survives years of hardship overseas and takes on the identity of a close friend who did not make it through the turmoil. She hopes this new name will give her a second chance at stability. Instead, it leads her into a world of elegant homes, polite smiles, and secrets buried deeper than she ever expected. When she arrives at the Hilltop Mansion, everything appears generous and welcoming. A child who needs care, a man offering comfort, a home filled with wealth and peace. But soon, small details begin to stand out. A locked room, a tense conversation, a moment someone tries to hide. The woman realizes the life she stepped into may have been planned long before she arrived. Director Robert Wise builds suspense with grace. Instead of loud twists, the film uses atmosphere to make you uneasy. The fog rolling over the city, the grand staircase, the long hallways that seem to whisper things the characters will not say. The performances, especially by Valentina Cortese, give depth to a story about identity, trust, and the danger of stepping into someone else's world. The House on Telegraph Hill feels like a quiet storm. It does not rush, it does not shout, it simply tightens its grip until you feel the full weight of every choice the characters make. Watching it free today is like walking into a beautifully wrapped mystery that slowly reveals the truth with every step. Nightmare, 1956. Nightmare begins the way many thrillers do, with a dream that feels a little too real. But here, the dream does not fade with morning. A jazz musician named Stan wakes up shaken after seeing himself in a strange room during the night, facing a man who ends up motionless on the floor. He tries to brush it off. He tries to tell himself it was only imagination. Then he discovers marks on his own hands and details from the dream appearing around him in daylight. This is where Nightmare becomes something special. The film explores the idea that memory, fear, and truth sometimes overlap in ways we cannot control. Director Maxwell Shane, who also directed Fear in the Night, returns to the same dreamlike tension, but expands it into a more atmospheric and visually layered story. Edward G. Robinson adds weight and authority to the film, playing a brother-in-law determined to uncover what really happened. His steady presence grounds the story and gives Stan someone to turn to even when he doubts his own mind. The use of music, especially the rhythmic jazz scenes, adds pulse to the mystery. Nightmare stands out because it is not about big surprises. It is about slow pressure. Every clue makes the world feel smaller. Every recollection makes the dream feel closer. Watching it now, you see how carefully it builds a bridge between subconscious fear and daylight truth. It remains a tight, eerie thriller with a smooth sense of unease. The Sniper, 1952. The Sniper is one of the earliest thrillers to look directly at the inner turmoil of someone losing control of their own emotions. The film follows Eddie Miller, a troubled and lonely man whose sense of isolation builds into something dangerous. Instead of glamorizing anything about his behavior, the film treats his actions as a warning sign, a call for intervention and help long before the situation spirals. It was one of the first movies to show how important early support can be. Director Edward Dmytryk shot the film with a documentary-like style. Real city locations, wide streets, and crowded buildings give the story a grounded feeling. The police in the story are not perfect heroes, but steady people trying to understand what is happening and why. They talk about the need for proper treatment and guidance, a topic rarely addressed in movies at that time. Arthur Franz's performance as Eddie is quiet, sad, and deeply human. He never feels like a monster, just someone who needed help long before the tension grew inside him. The film was praised for avoiding exaggeration and instead focusing on compassion. It makes the audience think about how ignored distress can turn into a danger to the person themselves and to others around them. The Sniper is an important piece of cinema history because it approached a sensitive subject with care and seriousness. Watching it free today is a reminder that awareness and support matter just as much as suspense. The Red House, 1947. The Red House feels like a campfire tale whispered at night. It begins with a teenage girl and her adoptive parents living on a quiet farm, surrounded by woods. The parents seem kind but guarded. The girl seems curious but restless. Then she hears about a forbidden place deep inside the forest, a red house that no one should visit, and a past her adoptive father refuses to discuss. From that moment, the woods become a character of their own. The trees seem to hide something. The wind seems to carry warnings. The further the characters walk into the shadows, the more they uncover pieces of a truth that was buried for years. Director Delmer Daves uses nature to heighten emotion. Scenes move between warm sunlight and dark woods, creating a contrast that mirrors the family's secrets. Edward G. Robinson plays the adoptive father with incredible restraint. He is gentle one moment and guarded the next, making you wonder what he is protecting and why. The Red House is not a fast thriller. It is a haunting one. It pulls you slowly through mystery and memory. Every clue feels like a sigh from the past. Every discovery makes the woods feel heavier. Many viewers missed this film when it first arrived, but over time it became a quiet treasure. Watch it today and you can feel why. It blends atmosphere, mystery, and emotional depth in a way that lingers long after the final scene. It is a story about truth, grief, and the shadows families learn to live with. The Stranger, 1946. The Stranger begins with calm streets, a quiet school, and a charming professor who seems to have created a simple life in a small American town. But everything shifts the moment a visiting investigator arrives. He believes the professor is not who he claims to be. Slowly, politely, he begins to peel away the layers of this carefully maintained identity. Orson Welles plays the professor with smooth charm and a controlled intensity. His performance is one of the reasons the film remains compelling today. You can sense two versions of him in every scene, the polite teacher and the hidden figure beneath. Edward G. Robinson plays the investigator, a man with sharp intuition and a steady resolve. Director Welles used real locations and thoughtful camera movement to create tension without relying on spectacle. The famous clock tower sequence remains one of the most striking images from any thriller of its time. The set, the rhythm, and the rising panic turn it into a centerpiece of suspense. The Stranger was one of the first American films to explore how individuals can hide behind new identities. It raised questions about trust, community, and how well we truly know the people around us. The film was bold for its era and became even more important with time. Watching it free today feels meaningful. The story is carefully woven, the performances are strong, and the atmosphere remains thick with unease. It is a classic that earned its place through confidence and craft. Blackmail, 1929. Blackmail is one of the turning points in cinema history, and it shows from the very first scene. Directed by Alfred Hitchcock, it began as a silent film and then transformed mid-production into one of Britain's earliest sound thrillers. The result is a movie that feels both experimental and polished, filled with suspense that still works nearly a century later. The story follows Alice, a young woman who makes one quick decision that leads her into a tangled situation. Suddenly, she must navigate fear, guilt, and the pressure of someone who knows a little too much about what happened. Hitchcock plays with sound in creative ways. A simple word repeated again and again becomes a symbol of Alice's rising anxiety. The famous scene in the artist's studio is one of the first examples of Hitchcock crafting suspense through rhythm and suggestion rather than loud action. Blackmail also explores the tension between personal truth and public judgment. Alice tries to keep control of her own story, while outside voices grow louder around her. The police investigation, the gossip, and the expectations of those around her come together to create a pressure that feels remarkably modern. The film is beautifully shot with dramatic shadows, long staircases, and London streets that seem to twist along with the plot. Watching Blackmail today is like witnessing the moment when thrillers discovered their full voice. It feels bold, stylish, and ahead of its time, making it the perfect #1 pick in this list of rare classics. 15 rare thrillers, each one rescued from the corners of cinema history and placed right in front of you for free. Some were forgotten, some misunderstood, some simply lost in the noise of new releases. But every single one still carries a spark that refuses to fade. If any title surprised you, moved you, or sent you searching for more, let me know in the comments. Share this list, subscribe for more hidden classics, and keep exploring before these stories slip away again.